Or yeah, the trailer park manager was on to something when he was talking about there's this guy that he thinks he runs shit around here, one of the residents, you know. And this guy, now I'm like, that's foolish for him to try to do that. He doesn't run shit, you know. So that's the way that the enemy can look like a fool. That's you know, I was literally praying with Evangelist Sarah doing on the live. She's like, let the counsels of the ungodly turn to foolishness. So every single one of your enemies that thinks that they're more than they are, they look foolish. These are people who are scared to go through a drive-through. I'm serious. These are people who are gonna end up being exposed as a joke. Nobody. In the name of Jesus. And they're gonna fall to a low that you wouldn't even wish on them. That you wouldn't even wish on them. That's why you gotta put it in God's hands. Put them in God's hands. It's just like how David had to cut off Saul. He loved Saul so much. But he kept being hurt by Saul. He looked at Saul like a father figure. And he could have killed him, but he didn't. Saul was after David. Saul took all his men, all of Israel with him, looking for David. David was not a fugitive. But David found Saul's camp. And while Saul was sleeping, David sliced off the corner of his garment. And he said, look what I did, Saul. I could kill you right now, but I'm not going to because I love you. Just know that I could kill you if I wanted to. And then he gave a speech on how much he loves him. And Saul was like, yeah, I love you too. But he really was like, what the fuck? You know, how did he do that? You know? So really, after that point, David literally says in the Bible, after David said all this nice stuff, David said, but he's going to kill me if he catches me again. So I better stay away from Saul. He was like, let's just go our separate ways. And then Saul ended up dying because he said, let's just go our separate ways. And then that's when, you know, David cried. And even though they weren't even cool anymore, but think about how sometimes people die and they like are your friends, or an animal, a pet dies and they are your friends. So sometimes like things happen that aren't, you don't see how they're necessary, or you know, and they're not really necessary, and you feel bad, but like God's gonna make up for all the losses that you've had. And don't feel bad.